So this program we had explained, right? So here I have taken a single program in which I can explain all the constructor. Okay. So here the the point is the name of the class, and we have declared two variables x and y, and then in the public section of the class I have declared the x and y values. I have initialized it to 0. So now this becomes the default constructor. Name of the class is same as the name of the constructor. Okay. Then we have the parameterized constructor. Here also name of the class is same as the constructor arguments, and these formal arguments. So x p is assigned to x and y p is assigned to y. This becomes the parameterized constructor because it receives the parameters, right? Then I have copy constructor where it copies the objects present. That is, p is an object, so it points to the ampersand of the address of this object. So address of the object we have to take because we are doing here call by reference, not the call by value. Okay. So therefore, here in the copy constructor, so I am copying the by using this object and dot operator, I am able to access the x and y variables. So therefore, p dot x assigned to x and p dot y will be assigned to y. So that is, I am assigning the x and y values to again x and y. Okay. Then we have another member function to display x and y values. Then in the main function, I am using this. This point is the name of the class. The P1 is the object of the class, and it is passing the value 20 and 30. Okay. So to the parameterized constructor, because the parameterized constructor accepts the parameters. So 20, 30 will be assigned to xp and yp respectively. So once the object is created, it is initialized. Okay. Then point p2 of p1, copy constructor. So copies the object p1 to p2. So it copies the complete object of p1 to p2, and then this becomes the copy constructor. Therefore, it copies the whatever the variables or data members present in the object p1 to p2, and then we have another object p3. P3 will be created. So okay, the p3 object will be created, so that as soon as the object is created, the constructor will be invoked. That is nothing but the default constructor will be invoked. Okay, because there is no parameters and there is no within the parenthesis there is no objects to copy. So therefore, here it means only one particular object, means it is a copy constructor is called. Now I'm calling the function display by using this object and then another object p2 and p3. Okay, so therefore here when I call p1 dot display, then the object p1, so that is it is passing the parameters 20 and 30 to this xp and yp, that will be assigned to x and y. When I call p1 dot display, the xy value will be displayed. Then p2 display, similarly I am copying the object of p1 to p2. So p2 will remain same. Here also x becomes 20 and y becomes 30, that will be displayed. Then p3 dot display, so I'm calling this default constructor by using this p3 object p3. So as soon as I call the display, so it is automatically assigned to x1 y is equal to 0. Therefore, the output will be x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0. So this is how we can use the constructor for automatically initializing the variables. So in that we have parameterized also and copy constructor to copy the variables. Then destructor. What do you mean by destructor? Destructor is a special member function which is also having the same name as that of its class, but prefixed with tilde symbol. So here it is tilde symbol is used, then it means it is a destructor. For example, tilde symbol sample. Okay. it is a destructor for the constructor sample. So if I create a constructor by the name sample, so then I can use, sorry, I can use this tile symbol and sample to destruct it. So destruction means I'm just leaving the memory space back to the heap. Okay. So then what are all the characteristics of the destructor? A destructor is invoked automatically by the compiler upon exit from the program. Okay. So what happens when the destructor is written? It is a special member function which is written. So then as soon as the destructor is invoked, so then it is automatically invoked by the compiler when it is executed. Okay, so destructor is invoked automatically by the compiler as soon as you exit the program also. So automatically when you exit the program also, then the destructor will be automatically invoked. The destructor does not return any value. It will not return any value. There is no return type for the special type of member function. And destructor cannot be declared as static, constant, or volatile. So here we cannot declare it as it is a constant. That member function is a constant member function. It is not it cannot be declared as static, constant, or volatile. The destructor does not accept any arguments and therefore cannot be overloaded. The destructor cannot be overloaded like other functions, okay? Other user-defined functions. A destructor is declared in the public section of the class. So you have to remember destruction is always declared in the public section of the class. If the constructor uses new expression to allocate memory, then the destructor should use the delete expression to free that memory. So if the constructor uses the new operator for memory allocation, then destructor uses delete operator for releasing the memory. Then this is the simple program which illustrates the destructors. So class is a keyword, sample is the name of the class, and in this class I have one data member x, and in the public section I have declared the sample void, and I have initialized x is equal to 0, and I have displayed the x value there itself in the user defined function or the member function sample. So this is a special member function which it is nothing but the constructor, okay, because name of the class is same as the name of the user defined function or the member function, therefore this becomes the constructor. Now this is a constructor because it x is equal to 0, it initializes the values of the variables. Then I have another member function called print x. So in that I am print x value, I am taking 25, I am printing the x value. Then tile symbol sample. So this statement, it will destruct the constructor constructed. Okay, at the beginning, it will destruct it. Destruct means it releases the memory used for this constructor. It releases the memory back to the heap. Then, in the destructor function, this is a destructor member function. Okay, destructor member function. Within the body of the function, just I have declared one sentence in destructor object destroyed. Okay. Then I'm closing. It need not to be. We need not to be written here. This sentence in Bekagila. You need not to be written. Just I am just for explaining purpose. I have written one statement here simply. Okay. Then void main. I have sample. Sample is the name of the class, and S1 is object is created. So when as soon as the object is created, x is equal to 0 will be initialized, and it will go to, as soon as the object is created, the control goes to here, and that means it this function is replaces the constructor replaces means as soon as the object is created, that in that time only this constructor will be executed. Then x is equal to 0 in constructor, x is equal to 0 will be displayed. And then I am calling print x function. So this is another member function here. This is a constructor, and here a member function. It is simply a member function, and you can see that here the name is different. for this user-defined function. So within the print text, I have written x is equal to 25 and I am printing the same using cout within the body of this user-defined function. Now, so then what is the output in constructor x is equal to 0, in printx x is equal to 25, and then this will be executed in destructor object destroyed. Okay. So ಇದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಾಯ್ಡ್ ಅದೇನು ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಯೂಸ್ ದಿಸ್. So this is how we can use the destructor constructor created. Now let us discuss virtual functions. What do you mean by virtual functions? So we already discussed polymorphism. What do you mean by polymorphism? It means having many forms. Okay. Many forms means a single function can have many forms in different instances. Okay. It behaves differently in different instances. So therefore polymorphism can be achieved in two levels, one at the compile time, another at the runtime. Okay, so compile time polymorphism is achieved using overloaded functions and operators. So already discussed function overloading and operator overloading. That is the two types of polymorphism, right? They are called as a compile time polymorphism. Okay, they are called as compile time polymorphism. So function overloading and the operator overloading, so they are nothing but the compile time polymorphism, and virtual functions are, they are nothing but they are, if you use virtual function then it becomes runtime polymorphism. The implementation of virtual functions require the use of pointer to objects. So here when we use virtual functions, we use pointer variable. Okay. The pointer variable has to be created and it has to be used to call the virtual functions. Okay. When a function is made virtual, when we use the same function name in both the base and derived classes, the function in base class is declared as virtual using the keyword virtual preceding its normal declaration. So how we can make the member function virtual? So by just preceding the keyword virtual. So by using the keyword virtual, so we same function name in both the base classes and derived classes. The function in base class is declared as virtual using the keyword virtual preceding its normal declaration. That means, so in the base class, so whatever we have written in the base class, so in the base class only we are declaring a particular function virtual. Okay. Therefore, this can be done by using the keyword virtual. Okay. When the function is made virtual, the C++ determines which function to use at runtime based on the type of the object pointed by the base pointer rather than the type of the pointer. That means when we call a function as a virtual, so it C++ determines which function to use at the runtime. So while running the program, the compiler will determines the okay. So it determines which function we have to execute, because there are many user defined function by the same name. Okay, so same name we are using for a different task. Okay, same name of the function is used for performing different tasks. Okay, so therefore at the runtime the compiler will get to know which function has to be executed. Okay, which function to use at the runtime based on the type of the object pointed by the base pointer. So it depends on the type of object pointed by the base pointer. Okay, rather than the type of the pointer. Instead of seeing the type of the pointer, so here they are not by the derived pointers. So that means a pointer variable can be used, and that pointer variable can only use it by the base class, not the derived class. Okay, you can remember this in mind. Only the base class pointer can be used to access the member function of the other derived class or the same class. Okay, base class. Okay, base class member functions and derived class member function can be accessed by that pointer variable created. So therefore, by making the by making the base pointer to point to different objects, we can execute different version of the virtual functions. So we can make the base pointer to point to different objects. We can execute different version of the virtual functions. So we can take example, and before going to the example, so then what are all the rules to be followed for the virtual function? Virtual functions must be member of some class. Okay? So virtual function should be a member of some class. Okay? So we can declare a member function virtual. So then that user defined that member function should be a member of some class. Okay, it should be a member of the class. They cannot be static. There cannot be static member function. That means, so static means we are having the constant values, and so they cannot be static member function. They are accessed by using object pointers. So here we are using the object pointers can be used to access those virtual function. A virtual functions can be a friend of another class. We can also make virtual function to be a friend of another class. Okay. That is also possible. They should be declared in public section of the class. So even similar to constructor, the virtual functions also should be declared in public section of the program at the class. Sorry, public section of the class. Okay. The prototypes of base class version of a virtual function and all the derived class versions must be identical. They should be same. Prototype means the declaration or calling of the function should be same. If two functions with the same name have different prototypes, C++ consider them as overloaded function. So therefore, we know that if two functions with the same name have different prototypes, so then C++ consider them as overloaded functions. We call it as a overloaded function. While a base pointer can point to any type of derived object, the reverse is not true. That means when the pointer variable is created, so we have to use that pointer variable to point to the base class and also derived class. But derived class pointer cannot be used for base class in order to access the base class members. Okay, only the base class pointer can be used to access the members of the derived class 1 or 2 or 3 like that. So if you derive some properties from the base class, so then pointer variable created for that derived class cannot be used. Pointer created for base class can be used. Okay. The point next I'll explain by taking the example. If a virtual function is defined in a base class, it need not to be necessarily redefined in the derived class. So there is no use of declaring there is no necessary of declaring the redefining the virtual function in the derived class because it is already declared in the base class. So in such cases, calls will invoke the base function. So this is the program to illustrate the virtual function. So here I have written a class, and the name of the class is base class. Okay. So in the base class, this is the termination of the class. Within this class, I have written one virtual function. So I am making it as a virtual. So it is a user defined name of the function. It is a user defined. So within the body of that function, this is base class virtual function. I have written this is the base class virtual function. and ending the class. Next class, derived class 1 colon public base. Public is the visibility labels. Okay, visibility labels here. Whatever we have declared public in the base class, that is also available in this. Okay, so the basic base class. Okay, sorry, public base class. So class derived class colon public base class. So this is a visibility one. This is a, again keyword. Okay, it is a keyword. Okay, here in this member function or the member function of this base class, I have written only one sentence. This is base class first function. Next, I am deriving the properties of this from the base class to the derived class 1. Again, in the body of the function derived class 1, in the public section, I have included this watch function. You can observe here watch function, watch func, watch func. So these are all remain same here also. Class derived class to public base class public in the public section. I'm declaring this void watch func. Okay, watch func is a name of the user defined function, but all the names of the um, all the names of the member functions remains same. Watch function only. Okay, and this in the this is a again a class is a keyword. This is a derived class 2, and I am deriving the properties of base class 2, derived class 2 also, 1 also. So here within the derived class 1, I have again one member function which is same as this. Name of the function is similar, same as this. Okay? And then I am printing one sentence. This is derived class 1 function, and then I am closing it. Okay, so this is a one another class. This is a one base class. This is a derived class. This is another derived class. So in the another derived class also, in the public section of the class, I have written void watch func. Okay, there also I am following the same function. So then within the body of the function, I have written this is derived class 2's watch function. Okay, this is the main program. Now I have this is the main program. In the main program, base class. So I have declared a pointer variable, then D. Okay, another variable. Derived class 1, D1, derived class 2, D2. So these are the two variables. Sorry, base class here pointer we have, and this is the object created. And for derived class 1, D1 is the object, and derived class 2, D2 is the object. Okay, so pointer variable I have declared for only for base class. Okay, then this pointer can be used to hold the address of this object B. Okay, so ampersand represent the address B, address of the B. So where B holds the object of this class. Okay, base class, and D1 holds the object of derived class 2. D2 is the object of this derived class 2. Okay, D1 is for derived 1, derived class 1, and D2 is for derived class 2. The objects are created. Now pointer is pointing to the address of the B, object B. Now pointer points to watch function. Access the base class. In order to access this watch function, I have to use this pointer variable. Okay. In order to access the member function of this base class, I have to use the pointer. So pointer watch function. Okay. Then the control goes to here, and this will be executed. This line will be executed. Then I am calling the function watch function. This is how we can access this watch function. And then watch function is we are calling the watch function, and then PTR. Then pointer variable is equal to ampersand D1. We are now pointing to derived class 1. Okay. So point to derived class 1 means for this object D1 is the object. Address of that object is assigned to PTR. Then PTR first function. Then this first function will be called, so which is present in the derived class 1's Okay, derived class 1. Okay, then first function. Then say similarly, I can call the derived class 2 function, member function. So PTR is used to, it's a pointer variable. It holds the address of D2, address of this derived class 2. Okay. Then by using pointer worst function, so we can access the derived class 2, and where I am calling the worst function. This is a worst function, therefore this will be executed. So therefore output will be, this is base class worst function, this is derived class 1 function, and this is derived class 2 worst function. That will be displayed. So when I call this function, this will be executed. When I call this watch function, this will be displayed. And I call this function watch function, then this sentence will be displayed. So therefore, the sentence 1, 2, 3. This is our first sentence, second sentence, and third sentence. So all the three will be printed. So here the address of the object B is stored in pointer variable. Then we are accessing the member function, worst function through the PTR. So in order to access the member function, watch found through so we are accessing it through the pointer variable. Next, the address of the object D1 is stored in pointer and accessing the member function, watch function through the pointer. That means next, once the base pointer is executed, base member function of the base class is executed. So then next is the address of the object D1 is stored in pointer. So next we can access the D1 object. Okay. So by using the pointer variable, and then we can access the member function watch function through the pointer variable. So therefore, finally, address of the object D2 is stored in pointer. Again, derived class 2. So D2 is nothing but derived class 2. Finally, address of the object D2 is stored in pointer and accessing the member function watch function through the pointer. So for object D2, it is stored in the pointer variable, and then we can access the member function watch function through the pointer. It is also possible to access watch function through the objects directly. So that means we can directly access it by using the dot operator. So B dot watch function. So this completes the virtual functions. Okay. So ಏನಾದರೂ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ in the watch functions? So till this point, we study this two virtual function for the test. Okay. The virtual functions. Purpose. ಎಲ್ಲ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಏನಾದ್ರು ರಿಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿ. PPTs ಎಲ್ಲ ಅನುಭವ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. I will teach ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋದೆಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ ಓಕೆ ಅನಿಸ್ತಿದೆ. ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಓಕೆ ಫಾರ್ ಯು? ಎನಿ ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್? ಎಲ್ಲ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ? ಏನಾದ್ರು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ? Something you want to say? Type of the question paper includes the programs also. Okay, so ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಥಿಯರಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಒಂದು 5 marks ಅಥವಾ 10 marksಗೆ theory will be there. Remaining programs you have to write. The concept you have to explain, and also you should understand the concept so that you can write the simple programs. If I ask you to write a simple program using constructor, destructor, or it can be a virtual function, or it can be a friend function, or it may be a base class and derived class. How to write the base class, derived class? So that will be asked. Okay. Simple programs ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಥಿಯರಿ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಯೂನಿಟ್. Here one more slide I have related to this program. So in that slide, so here pointer is a pointer variable. I am storing the object of B in that, and then we are accessing the member function. Then only we are accessing the member function virch func through the pointer. Next, the adder and accessing the member function virch function through the pointer. So that means here I am first storing the address of B, and then storing the address of D1, and then storing the address of D2. So when I store the address of B, so by using that pointer I am calling the virch function. So then when I storing the object D2 to the pointer variable, then pointer variable points to the member function derived class, and then the virch function can be called. Similarly, the D2. Okay? So the derived class 2's whose object is the pointer is pointing to that particular object, and the by using that pointer I can access the member function of this derived class. Then virch function can be called, and then finally the address of the object D2 is stored in pointer and accessing the member function virch function through the pointer. So this is how we can access the member function. It is also possible to access virch function through the objects directly. So we can also write b dot virch function. This we are directly writing b dot virch function. We can also like that. We can also do like that without the pointer. So therefore here, while a base pointer can point to any type of derived object, the reverse is not true. So that means, so pointer variable we created that is only for base class, and they can point to any type of the derived object, but the derived object's pointer variable cannot be used. So the reverse is not true means if I create a pointer variable for the derived class, that cannot be used to access the member function of the or the virtual function of the base class. So therefore only this pointer variable. So this pointer variable declared for base class can only be used to access the objects of member functions of D1 and D2. Okay, but if I create a pointer variable for derived class 1 and derived class 2, those pointer cannot be used to access the base class member function. Only the base class base pointer can point to any type of derived object, but the reverse is not true. Okay. This you can remember. If a virtual function is defined in the base class, it need not to be necessarily redefined in the derived class. Okay. Base class ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದ್ಸಲ ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ರೆ it need not to be necessary to redefine with the derived class. So this is about the virtual functions. So the same name of the function remains same. That virch func, here also virch func, and here also virch func. The name of the function remains same, but it acts differently in different instances. Then what is the purpose of writing this? So virtual functions. If I write virtual functions, so here in the main program, so I can call the virch function. So here the different tasks may be this first function may be used for doing some special task. This first function may be used to do special task or any other specific task. Similarly, this can also be used. So whenever necessary, we can call this first function, okay, by using the pointer. So using the same function name, we are doing different task using the same name of the function. So at the run, because it decides, the compiler decides which virch function has to be executed at the runtime. So therefore it is a runtime polymorphism. So while the compiler will get to know which virch function has to be executed in this example. So then the depending upon that, so we call this as a runtime polymorphism or runtime overloading. So here we are overloading virch function. It acts differently in different instances. Virch function in this base class is different. Virch function in derived class is different, and virch function in the derived class 2 is different. Okay. So here we can observe the syntax. Class is a keyword. Derived class 1 colon public base class. So this should be the prototyping. The prototyping of the functions should be same. Okay, I'll stop at this point. I'll take attendance, wait for some time. We'll discuss the next unit, second unit in the next class. Okay. So in the first unit, I have not covered time complexity, space complexity analysis. So that can be completed later, and I'll go directly to the second unit by the next class. Okay, and then I'll cover the time complexity and space complexity analysis later. Absence, absentees, Vinayak, Pavitra, and then Shivanand, yes, Manjunath, Shivanand Lala. Tribhuvan. Tribhuvan is absent. Pavitra, Tribhuvan, and then one more is Vinayak. Vinayak, yes. ಸಂಗತ್ಯ ದಾಸ್ ಆದರ್ಶ್ ಪಲ್ಲು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಅವ್ರು ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರಾ?
ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಪವಿತ್ರ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್.
ಇದ್ದೀರಾ? ಮತ್ತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಆಬ್ಸೆಂಟ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ?
ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಇದ್ದೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
ಆದರ್ಶ್ ಸಂಗತ್ಯ ದಾಸ್ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ?
ಎಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
ಓಕೆ, ಆದರ್ಶ್ ಆಗಿದೆಯಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ, ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಓಕೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
ಅದು ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಬೇರೆ ನೇಮ್ಸ್ ಜೊತೆ ಅಂತ ತಗೊಂತೀನಿ. Okay, you can leave the meeting. I have copied the attendance list. Okay, you can leave the. Any doubts? ಏನೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಸೊ ಈವೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇಗ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾನು ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು.